Did you get arrested that day? Did you go into the building?
No, I didn't go into the building.
Okay.
I totally stayed away. It took the federal government 2 years to indict me.
Wow.
So I lived in this apartment, and every single day when I walked out of the apartment, they'd say, "Would you like to come speak with us?"
What did your parents think when they found this out?
My parents weren't sure exactly what was going on because I never told them I was doing this. I just always had a lot of money.
Welcome to Wham Bam, Thank You, Pam. I'm your host, Pam Gaslow, writer, former stand-up comedian, and mastermind behind the 50-year plan to success. I also learned the hard way that you don't bring your vibrator to rehab, and wrote a book about it. Here we have bold, unfiltered conversations about sex, relationships, personal lives, and pop culture with a sharp, sexy, and comedic edge. Wham Bam, Thank You, Pam is the wildly entertaining, no-holds-barred discussion you didn't know you needed. Welcome to Wham Bam, Thank You, Pam. I'm Pam Gaslow. Today's guest is the author of Electro Boy, which is a wild memoir about mania, Andy Behrman. Hi, Andy.
Hi, Pam.
How are you
Uh,
today?
uh, Not that good.
Really?
It's been very stressful setting up for this interview, and I'm not trained as an engineer. And between the lighting and the sound, I mean, if we make it through this, it'll be a miracle. My skin is not generally this white. Is there any way you can
We're gonna
maybe
edit this.
give
We're
me a
gonna
little
edit
bit
it.
of tan?
We're gonna totally change everything. I'm not even gonna recognize you.
Okay, good, good.
Okay.
Plastic
So I
surgery
want to
too?
start off. We're gonna get you surgery right after this interview, like straight to the hospital.
I should have
I know,
probably.
really. I know a
I
good
was
guy.
gonna.
Okay. So I want to start with how we met because it's really funny. So Andy and I met on a mutual friend's Facebook page about like 11 years ago.
Oh
I
my
think about
God.
11 years. So Andy and I both commented on her what I don't know what her post was about. It's irrelevant. So we both commented and like his comment was really funny and I guess mine was. And then we started chatting in her comment section on her Facebook post and we started following each other and then would write funny things on each other's page and then eventually
And she didn't like that very much.
so she didn't like this at all and Andy and I became really good friends and she unfollowed both of us.
Right. And we've never spoken to her again.
It's the best story.
Yeah.
I can't wait
And
for her to
it was the best thing that happened in my life that I don't have her in my life.
it was the best for everyone, the
Is that
outcome.
cruel to say? But no.
It doesn't bother me.
I'm a big blocker. So anyhow.
I am not a big blocker. Like you have to do a lot for me to block you. Like, we'll put up with a lot, but then there's a line when everyone crosses and then it's done. It's over.
My ex-wife went on total permanent block the day that she cheated.
But she's not still on block. So what do you mean permanent block? She's the mother of your children and you're in contact with her.
Not really.
Okay, so let's talk about your book, Electro Boy.
You don't serve anything like drinks on this show?
I have like a third of a bottle of sparkling water that I'm going to imbibe. I don't
I
have anything for you because, oh, Andy's in California. So I
yeah.
don't, I can't help you. You should have
I'm
taken care
waiting
of
for
that.
the next wildfire. I'm waiting for the next mudslide and the next earthquake. And wouldn't it be great if one of them happened while we were talking?
Yeah, it would be great if like all three of them happen at once.
At least one of them, you
You're
know?
always waiting for like, you're like, oh, I'm waiting for the rain. Like, like, what is wrong with you?
So Pam and I met each other, and we considered marriage for. We didn't consider marriage.
I don't think we did, but we still
No.
could.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not married,
I'm not getting
so
married.
okay. Um,
Okay, I want you to read the first page of Electro Boy because that is so captivating and I think it really
that's the
tells,
shameless promotion for the book,
it
which I've
really,
been doing since it was published in 2002 by Random House.
you're
Okay.
the king of shameless self-promotion. And the first page is just encapsulates the whole idea of mania. So read that.
Okay. January 6th, 1991. I'll look up every so often. Number one, bleach, bathtub, toilet, and sink.
Wait, back up. This is a list of things to do for that day, correct?
Or for a couple of days. Yeah. 2, make Holocaust documentary. 3, start tofu tuna diet. 4, work out 5 days a week. 5, buy news scale. 6, confirm $35,000 wire payment from art collection house. 7, open Munich bank account. Number 8, open escrow account for rent. Number 9, mail $20,000 to American Express. Number 10, bring $2,700 to Dr. Klingman. Number 11, submit claims to Blue Cross Blue Shield. Number 12, go to MetPath Lab for lithium level. Number 13, pick up lithium and Prozac. Number 14, buy more Kiehl's extra strength styling gel, which is actually in my hair right now as we speak. Get Lara's psychiatrist's phone number. Get Pamela's astrologist phone number. Number 17, tanning salon. Number 18, visit Auschwitz. Number 19, South Beach or Bahamas. Number 20, book trip with dad to Galapagos. 21, make reservation at Chanterelle. Number 22, write novel and screenplay, which I did one of. I didn't write the screenplay yet. Number 23,
How many more are there?
25,
Okay, 2 more.
patience. 23, read 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Number 24, pick up liquid plumber. Number 25, buy a dog,
Wow.
which I didn't do.
So how many of those things did you do?
I probably did about more than half.
By the way, that could be the whole book. Like, that's a great book. I don't need
Oh, I
to.
didn't have to write the
Yeah.
rest. Yeah, it was just a waste of time.
Okay. When did you first realize that something was wrong with you?
I was probably about 4 or 5 years old. I knew
Okay.
something was different about me. I was a little bit different than other 4 and 5 years old, and that adults were reinforcing that difference, which in retrospect probably wasn't smart on their part. Teachers at school treated me differently. They dealt with me as if I was an adult, and I wasn't an adult.
But when did you first start having symptoms of mania?
Early, I had symptoms of OCD. I was cleaning nonstop. I was bleaching sinks, cleaning toilets at a very early age, when you're not supposed to be the housekeeper.
Right.
Yeah. And everything had to be organized, lined up. I was vacuuming once a day. And then, if you have really bad OCD and you vacuum, when you're done vacuuming, you don't put the vacuum away. You open up the vacuum bag and you see what you can find inside all of the junk. And sometimes you're really lucky. You find your mom's earring that she's been missing for like a year. You're totally crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah. I mean,
And at what point did this get out of control? Talk me through, like, to the point in your life where you actually started to seek help. Like, how long before you got to that point?
well, I guess it may be more important to tell you that I made it through high school rather successfully. I grew up like I had this normal upbringing in New Jersey, but it was critical that I be the yearbook editor, the class president, and the student government president, the
Right.
trifecta. It was critical that I overachieve. There were 300 kids in the class and they all had this chorus for Christmas. And I was like, I'm not going to be in the chorus. There's no way. And they're like, well, then you can't graduate. I was like, no, I'm going to come up with something different. Because they asked me why I didn't want to be in the chorus. And I said, because if there's anything I hate more, it's singing Christmas carols. I'd rather kill myself. They should have taken me seriously when I said that. Because
I'd rather kill
50%
myself than hear them.
of people with bipolar disorder do take their lives. So instead, I proposed that I take the bus into Manhattan, which was all of 15 minutes, and that I study Chinese. And they approved that. So it was a lot of fun.
I don't even
But
understand what that means.
I went to a Chinese class, Chinese language class. Yeah. But you have to understand when you're
Say something to me in Chinese right now.
ni hao ma,
What does that mean? How are you?
yeah,
Okay.
wu shi shui shi. Okay, let's not go there. Anyhow, but the point is, what happens to the bipolar person? Yeah, you go to the Chinese class, which is in Times Square, and then you discover Times Square. And then you discover the whole entire world of porn. And the point is that a lot of bipolar people are hypersexual. So I wanted to learn everything. I wanted to see everything. I wanted to go to live sex shows in Times Square. When you're bipolar, you have this tremendous thirst for seeing everything, traveling everywhere, learning everything. And your brain is like, I've never said this, but it's like on fire. You're constantly going, 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 going.
I want to read a quote from your book where you said one of the secrets of manic depression is the pleasure it brings. It's an emotional state similar to Oz, full of excitement, color, noise, and speed, an overload of sensory stimulation, whereas the sane state of Kansas is plain and simple, black and white, boring and flat. It's pretty good,
Yeah,
right?
and that was my fear, is that my life would be boring. And I got tremendous pleasure from exploring everything that was out there. And it wasn't like I limited myself to any particular things. One day I could wake up and say, well, I write about this in the book. I was watching the Berlin Wall come down on TV, and I was like, but I'm going to go there. But not
Right.
like I'm going to go there in a couple of years. Like,
I'm
I'm
go
going
there
to
right
pack a
now.
bag. I'm going to get out on the corner of 84th and Broadway, take a cab, and fly to Berlin, which
And
I
did you?
did. Yeah, I did.
And you did it alone?
Oh, I took a friend. I always just traveled with a friend. I'd
And
call.
how old were you when that occurred?
Oh, that was like 27,
Okay. And then
27.
what happened when you got to Berlin?
Well, it was exciting. I saw the wall. I chipped a piece off. I took it home, traveled into East Berlin,
But
went
would
to a
you okay.
what? Went to a restaurant in East Berlin. It had a huge menu. So excited about this huge menu. But when you asked for anything, the only thing they had on the menu, I mean, it was like the day after the wall had fallen down. These people hadn't yet discovered food.
Mm,
So all they had in the restaurant was rump roast, which is just basically some horrible boiled meat. So
right.
that's my joke from Berlin. But yeah, I always had to see things up close. And even as a little kid, I would read National Geographic magazine and say, well, one day I'm going to go there.
Mm.
And I would just
What would happen? Like, would you crash? Like, where is the does the mania just keep going or then
In my case, which is much different, some people have a combination of mania and depression. I would have a little depression, very little, but my depression exhibited itself as rage. I was just a really angry person when I was depressed because I was so upset that I wasn't high. High, I really mean high because you always want to do the next dangerous thing, even if it's standing on the subway track and thinking, what do you think I'll look like if I jump in front of that subway?
mm,
And after
right.
it hits me, probably not too good. But, that never happened. I mean, when I was psychotic, I did try to take my life. And while I was fully dressed, I got into a bathtub full of water and tried to drown myself. The only thing I didn't realize until later was that I had never filled the bathtub up with water. That was the psychotic part.
Yeah.
But I thought I was going to
And
drown myself.
when you like something like that, for example, were you on drugs when you did that?
Well, not specifically at that time.
Hmm.
And,
But drugs were part of the story, like that also.
oh, absolutely. Drugs are part of the story. But a lot of that was in college. And those were the preliminary signs that there was bipolar disorder because I was using cocaine heavily. It speeded up the mania, it fed the mania.
Mm,
But in those years, like in the mid 80s, when I was in college, people were not talking openly about mental health at all. I mean, there was a mental health counselor, and seriously, she knew very little about bipolar disorder, but she had very few patients because no one was openly
Right.
admitting that anything was wrong. So, it's not like I was the first person, but curiously, I was the first male who wrote a memoir about suffering with bipolar disorder. I
Mm.
mean, everyone else, and they were pretty well known, everyone else, they were all women, like Kate Redfield Jamison, who's written the most important books on mania. I mean, she really inspired me. I went to hear her speak, and I've read everything she's written, but I'm like, that's not me. That's not my mania. She's driving, she's had a couple glasses of wine, and she's driving in circles around the parking lot at UCLA.
Right.
Big fucking deal. I'm flying to Japan and I'm selling counterfeit paintings. Kay, you're really lucky. Keep driving around in that parking lot on a
Right.
couple
Right.
of glasses of wine, but you're not risking your life.
So at what point did you really start to get help? And how many, I imagine this wasn't an overnight, diagnosis and success
No,
story because like most mental illness, I mean, yes, this was in the 80s. Now that's a long time ago, but so many people go through so much stuff to figure out what's wrong with them. And it's
right.
just so
I mean,
disheartening.
I started right away at 22 in New York, saw my first psychiatrist. Just to give you the stats, I saw 14 mental health people, none of whom diagnosed me with bipolar disorder. When I finally found one female psychiatrist who diagnosed me after 2 sessions, I was, uh, you know, treated with 45 different medications. That doesn't happen anymore
Right.
because they're able to diagnose faster. There's actually testing to see what meds will work better for you. But I remember the first psychiatrist I went to, he was like Freud. And, he had this line. He had this line because I told him I was using cocaine and staying up, 48 hours in a row. And he said, you will get high. And when he wouldn't give me enough medication to stay high, I would just buy it on the street. That was Prozac for depression, just when Prozac came out. And I realized, wow, if 20 milligrams makes me feel great, how's 80 going to make me feel?
Right.
Well, it made
Typical
me
drug
high.
addict mentality. What
Yeah,
happened?
it got me high.
Right. Never thought of taking that much Prozac.
Yeah. But I mean, I did everything in excess,
Yeah.
whether it was drugs, alcohol, sex, shopping. I could go out and just like binge shop and spend $20,000.
Mm.
Um, it wasn't good.
No, but it's like you talk about the high of it, but at the same time, this isn't normal and like I kind of need help for it.
Oh yeah, I did know that I needed help.
Yeah.
When I found this one doctor, the female doctor, she said, we're going to get you well because you're living on the edge. It's dangerous. But at the same time, she couldn't find the right cocktail of medication, a
Mm.
term that I hate. But
Cocktail,
yeah, but
health.
so there was a lot of crazy stuff going on. I was working in the public relations business at first, working for Giorgio Armani, and I lied on my application to get the job because it was the job to get. I said that I spoke Italian fluently because my boss worked in Milan, so she spoke perfect English. But the job,
I was like, how do you
curiously,
fake speaking a language? Like,
they didn't test me out.
okay. And you didn't need to know
My
it.
job actually was when Mr. Armani came to town, which was often, I would hire prostitutes for him. I would hire like 10 young boys at a time.
It's a cool
And
job. Mazel tov.
well, it was lucrative. It was lucrative. And, I
Would
became
somebody,
friendly with a
he
lot.
would ask you to do that?
They would ask me to do that. He didn't ask me. But they
Okay.
showed up at the Carlisle Hotel. They each got their $1,000, and I got my 20% cut.
Of course you
which was
did.
which was good. But then I said to myself, I'm 22 years old. I'm in really good shape. I'm just as good as them. I'm going to do this job, but I'm going to start, by being a stripper at a club because
Right.
that's lucrative too. And I had a friend who did it with me. We kind of kept each other company and kept each other safe.
That
And,
must have been interesting.
and I was never scared of the consequences, which were so bad. And I can't even tell you the kind of people who would like pick you up.
You can.
Oh, I mean, they
I
were,
want to
well,
know.
one was a psychiatrist
Of course.
and
I love
all
this life.
his family was away in Martha's Vineyard, and all he wanted me to do was to be naked and to wear a gas mask.
Okay.
That's good. I mean,
I mean, you don't have to, that's not a lot of work. I mean, once you get the gas mask, you know.
no, he had
So
the gas
did he
mask.
supply it?
He had the gas
Oh,
mask.
cool. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
So, and I would tell my psychiatrist these things, like, this is what I'm doing.
right.
But it led to all kinds of crazy things.
It led to crazy things. It was crazy.
It was crazy,
It
but
led
it
to
led to
crazier
crazier things.
things.
I went to work for an artist. His name was Mark Kostabi. He was very famous in the 80s. And he kind of took to me and he was like, wow, you're the PR guy. You can sell anything. Yeah, I'm good at selling. And I can promote you and I can sell. And we ended up bringing in $3 million my first year. And then, well, the thing about Mark Kostabi is he didn't paint any of his own paintings. He hired painters to paint them.
I
Okay.
know somebody that does that who I won't name.
And then he,
Why do I actually try in life? You know, like,
why do you what?
why do I actually try in life? It's not, is it worth it?
No,
No.
no, no. There are lots of shortcuts.
Yeah.
So then he authorized me to sign his paintings, and me thinking always a step ahead and
Hmm.
thinking, I'm going to find a painter here who's making minimum wage and pay her $1,000 a painting and sell that painting for $20,000 because I'm authorized to sign these paintings.
Right.
So I traveled all over the world. I traveled to Hong Kong, Japan, that was my big place, Italy, France, Germany, Spain, all over. And I would sell these paintings to dealers who were regular customers. But I would sell a lot of paintings, a lot of paintings.
Right.
But unfortunately, Kostabi was once in Japan and he went to a gallery that I had sold to and he saw like 40 paintings I
Mhm.
had sold. And I got a telephone call from him and he said, Andy, there's a problem. I'm at such and such gallery and there are 14 paintings and I've never seen them. I'm like, oh God, I don't know anything about that. So I put a suit on because I figured just get as normal as you can. And I went down to our office on 37th Street and there was yellow police tape around. I'm like, wow, someone's in trouble. Like, I wonder who's in trouble. What's going on? And I called my lawyer and I told him what was going on. And he's like, I think you need to come to my office right away. Yeah.
And you got
He
arrested.
didn't end up being my criminal defense attorney because I had to tell my parents about this. I'm like, hey mom, hey dad, we met for dinner. And it's like, do you guys know a criminal defense attorney? Because I may be in a little bit of trouble. Well, I wasn't, am I allowed to say shit ton of trouble?
You can say whatever you want.
I was in a shit ton of trouble.
Did you get arrested that day? Did you go into the building?
No, I didn't go into the building.
Okay.
I totally stayed away and it took the federal government 2 years to indict me.
Wow.
So I lived in this apartment and every single day, when I walked out of the apartment, they'd say, would you like to come speak with us? And my lawyer had given me 1,000 business cards. He said, because they will drive you crazy. Just hand them a business card and say, call my attorney. But I lived in fear, you know, and I was cut off financially. I mean, yes, I had made a lot of money in this
Counterfeit
scam
business.
counterfeiting business, but it wasn't in this country. There was some money in my freezer, which I referred to as my cold cash.
Crazy.
But so I wasn't arrested. We agreed upon my turning myself in. So I went through the whole thing and still crazy as hell I was and not understanding how much trouble I was probably in. So then we started prepping for trial in federal court, Eastern District in New York. And they indicted me on 5 counts of wire fraud. And I was still crazy because then the trial happened. And they started bringing in witnesses against me. And my bank manager came in and like, hey, I bought you a Christmas present. You coming in to testify against me? Mary. Her name was Mary Long from Chase Manhattan Bank. She's probably dead by now.
What did your parents think when they found this out?
My parents weren't sure exactly what was going on because I never told them I was doing this. I just always had a lot of money. So they always had lots of nice gifts from me after every trip.
Yeah, but so they found out what you did, and then what was their,
It was the reaction that I think any great parent will defend you.
okay,
And you're not well.
right.
And we've got to get you well.
And then how much time did you serve?
Well, luckily, I was only convicted on 1 count. So on the other count, I could have served up to 5 years. So when I came back to sentencing, they had to consider how bad the crime was. While I was waiting to be indicted, by the way, I had to make money. So I went to Chinatown and I bought this green alligator suit and I did birthday parties for kids on the weekend.
Shut the fuck up. You never told me this.
Yeah, it's in the book.
Oh my God, I don't remember this. This is amazing. I wish
I,
I knew you then.
I would do those for I would do 2 for $150 each. And then I worked on a bar on Amsterdam Avenue where my job was to get people in to drink. So I
Right.
would give them a green free drink ticket and I would get like an extra 100 people into the bar. And based on every ticket that was given out, I would get $2 for the little coin. So I would make $200. I mean, I was always a hustler
Yes.
and a hustler.
Yes. And yes,
Yes.
you've done everything. Wait,
Yes. But it's so funny because it's like my mom and dad, they read the book 4 weeks before it was published. And I had lied to them and told them I was writing a technical book on bipolar disorder. So they read the book and quickly, obviously, because at 2 a.m., my mother called and she was like, that is pornography. That is trash. That we are so humiliated. We need to see your therapist immediately. Okay. So the next morning, yeah, we saw my therapist. I said, it's an emergency. They want to kill me. So the therapist said to my father, what did you think of Electro Boy? Which, by the way, has become my nickname amongst way too many people. My father said, I thought it was really well written. I thought it was honest. And he's really suffered with bipolar disorder.
mm,
And then she turned to my mother and said, what did you think of Electro Boy? And she said, I hated it. I hated everything about it. But what I hated most about it was that he writes about dancing at seedy Times Square theaters naked, and I couldn't even get him to dance at bar mitzvahs.
that is amazing. Your mom needs to write the sequel to this book, obviously. At what point did you come to the realization all these medications aren't working, and who decided that you were going to get the ECT therapy?
Well, I talked to my psychiatrist and I said, how much longer do I have to live like this? I mean, I just can't do it much longer. And I said, because I had read about it, what do you think about ECT treatment? She said, I think you're going to be very sensitive to it. But she referred me to the expert, and I went to see him, and he said, I think you're the perfect candidate for this. I felt like he said it without really even thinking. So I went for my first treatment. It was always outpatient. You'd go really early in the morning. You'd have your treatment. You'd be laying on a gurney. You'd be pulled into the OR. You'd be strapped down by your arms and your ankles. They'd put a rubber bite plate in your mouth. So when the shock hit you, you wouldn't bite your tongue off. Um, and
Were you
then
scared?
the first time I was scared to death, but they gave me anesthesia first. So I was totally out. And of course I became addicted to the anesthesia because I loved it. And then like they put me into recovery and a half hour later they brought me into my room and I was feeling great. was like, oh my God, is this how normal people feel?
Right.
I'm like, and the hospital was in New York. I looked at my parents and I said, why are we in Connecticut? And then the nurse came in the room and I was like, excuse me, but I really want to be with my family. And my parents said to me, that's your sister. So the worst side effect, memory.
Yes, I've read about it and I've heard that.
Yeah, it's just terrible. Like when my parents,
Does it come back though? Is that just like the immediate effect? Does it come back?
okay, so yeah, the memory loss is bad. And when I got home, I wanted to call my parents and tell them I was okay, but I looked at the phone pad and like I didn't know what any of the numbers meant. Like,
Wow.
okay, there's the one, the two, the three, the four, the five, the six, but like, how do I put them together to call my parents? Like, I don't understand how this really works. My memory was bad. I didn't remember people, but it would come back and I would go like every 2 weeks for another session. I had 19 treatments. The only reason I didn't have 20 is because I called it off. He wanted me to stay on ECT forever. And I was done and I knew I was healthy. And on ECT and medication, I was healthy. Oh, and by the way, I didn't tell you, for the one count that I was found guilty of, I was given 5 months in federal prison and 5 months under house arrest where I had to wear an ankle bracelet.
Right, right.
And I had 4 hours out a day. It was a good conversation piece, you know. It was a good, you know.
And you didn't mind prison, right?
No, I made the best of it because I was
Or
still
you were
not totally
everyone's best friend.
well.
Right.
I was everybody's best friend. Like my mother, when she
Well, the
knew I was going,
prison was before ECT, right?
prison was before ECT.
Okay.
Correct. But my mom was like, we need to go shopping because you're going to prison.
Shopping for what?
Well, she goes, well, I mean, you have to look nice.
I
Well,
love your mom.
so she took me to Bloomingdale's and we got all kinds of nice things that she wanted me to have, like khakis and button downs, which, just so you know, is not what everyone else is wearing. Okay.
You didn't have to wear a uniform?
No,
Because it
it,
was
it was
like,
federal.
okay.
But, you know, I mean, it was my opportunity to learn to speak Spanish, which
Maybe I should go to prison because I really need to learn Spanish.
you should go to prison. What
What did
should you
you
be?
do
What
during the
should you
day?
be? What should you be arrested for, though?
Something like totally insane. Wait, I want to go back to something, but what did you do every day? What did you do all day in prison besides learn Spanish?
Work out.
Okay.
Yeah, and because the other guys were, there were layers of levels of, you know, they were all in for drug dealing. I was in for wire fraud. I mean, my roommate was in for white collar crime. He used to borrow the keys from doormen in Manhattan and apartments to clients, but he didn't know the owners and he would take a down payment from them. It was just a scam he was running.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. He was my one mob friend.
So when did you write Electro Boy? How long after the treatments did you start writing and how long did it take?
You know, some parts of Electro Boy I wrote in college, oddly. I was less than like 18 years old, but mostly I sat down. It was really hard for me to focus. And I said, I'm going to tell a true story about mental illness. I'm not going to cover up anything. I'm not going to clean up what's dirty or considered dirty. You know, if I had a three-way in San Francisco, I'm writing about it. If this book is really going to be a true story and another intention was for it to help people, let them read a real story. I mean,
Course. It's
I
kind of
can't,
like an AA qualification, you know.
right. I mean, I can't
When
tell
people
you,
sugarcoat, it doesn't help other people. Like I think the best stories are when people are honest, and that's the only way to help people, not sugarcoating and pretending things are, you know.
no, I mean, yeah, there's some name changes. I mean, not Armani because he's in the public domain. But when the New York Times interviewed them about what I did for Armani, they said he's got a very fuzzy memory.
Mm.
Well, what they should have said, if they were smart, was he was never employed here.
Mm.
So instead, I told the truth. I told the truth about a lot of people who weren't very helpful along the way.
And what I like about you is you really don't give a fuck what people think, and I respect that.
It's not that I don't give a fuck, but I feel like being truthful is, it was totally redundant what I was just going to say. Being truthful is honest, but honesty counts when someone wants to understand what you've been through. I've spoken to so many college audiences, and I've spoken to pharmaceutical salespeople. I've spoken to book clubs, and the best book clubs I've found are like I've done so many in Texas with evangelical Christians and Republicans who were so much more accepting of what I did than Beverly Hills housewives, who just kind of needled me and said, for example, what's it like to have sex with a man? And I said, to that question, what's it like to fuck your husband?
It's amazing.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, hey, I'm here to tell my story. I'm here to be honest. If you
Yeah.
want to ask questions, you know, just ask good
Intelligent ones.
questions.
Right.
Yeah, intelligent ones. Thank you.
Don't be an ass. So cut to today. I know this was a long, many, many years ago, and you haven't had any more treatment, but you do take what, like one medication?
I take 3 medications, and
Hmm.
I never tell people what I take, only because then they think, well, you're so balanced.
Maybe I should take those. Is that what they
Yeah,
think? Yeah,
I'll ask my doctor if I should take those.
right.
I mean, I don't take anything heavy duty. I take, you know, a mood stabilizer, which everybody who has bipolar disorder should take. And yeah, I have a lot of anxiety, so I take an anti-anxiety. And just to be cautious so I don't slip there, I take an antidepressant. But it's not like taking 45 medications.
No, you sound like you're not really on much more than the average American is.
No, 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 exactly. But the most I ever took was 15 at once. I've tried 45 medication.
Right. 15 at once? Jesus.
Yeah. Well, I
Wow.
mean, because there were so many side effects to so many meds,
Oh,
so you'd have to take the side effect pill. I mean,
oh, God,
it's like,
nightmare.
trust me, I know meds really, really well. And the one thing I have to tell you is I never miss taking them because I know what happens. You've
Mm,
got to be really, to cope and manage with this brutal fucking illness, you've got to be just regimented, and you have to follow what your doctor says. And unlike a lot of patients, I see my doctor regularly, but a lot of doctors just prescribe. I
right.
mean, my doctor wants to see me in person to see how I'm moving, to see if
Mm,
my hands are shaking,
right.
because
And
sometimes
so
they do.
many people you hear about, they think, "Oh, I'm fine. I don't need these medicine. I don't need this medicine anymore." And they just stop taking it like all the
Right,
time.
exactly. They just decide on their own. I mean,
Yeah.
I've done it before. Like, I'm doing just fine. I'm going to drop this out. 5 days, I can feel it. Maybe I've done that in 20 years. I've done that 5, 6 times. That's about it.
Yeah.
But not like I'm producing your show, which I've seen lots of episodes of. But how are we on time?
I think like we're at the time.
We're at time.
Yeah, we need to,
Oh, wrap it up.
yeah. Do you have anything
Oh,
else, like anything amazing you wanna
well,
share?
you're asking me what life is like today.
Yeah.
See, no one ever thought I would get married. Okay.
They probably didn't think you'd be alive.
No, they all thought I'd be in a psychiatric ward. And no one ever thought I'd have kids, nor did anyone ever think I'd be a single parent. I mean, I was left with an 8-month-old and a 2-year-old who are now 18 and 20, and they're extremely great kids. And they grew up understanding mental illness.
Did you ever think, is that bipolar disorder, is that anything that's inherited? I don't think it is.
Yes,
It is?
yes,
Did you ever think before you had kids, like the possibility of passing that on?
yeah. But yeah, it's something to consider. But I also know, like, wow, um, 35 years after I was diagnosed, how much easier it is to treat and how much more acceptable it is to say, I have bipolar disorder. I never knew the term bipolar disorder. We always called it manic depression.
Right.
I mean, when I was first diagnosed, this doctor told me that I had manic depression. And I said to him, I didn't know what it was. I
Hmm.
said, am I going to live until my next birthday? I thought I was going to die. I didn't know.
Well, the book is amazing. It's so well written. You've done so much publicity for it over the years, and it's still a message that's so important, and just as relevant today that our people need to understand about. And thank you for sharing that with our.
Well, thank you for having me and for listening so closely. And it's no pun intended, it's a shocking book. And
And it's
people,
funny, but
it's funny, but that's how I relate the illness to people. First of all, it's a very easy to read book. It's an old book, but it's been published in 7 languages. My joke is it's been published in 7 languages except English. And that's it. And it's always fun. It's always fun to talk about.
well, everyone, the book's called Electro Boy by Andy Behrman. Check it out, and thank you so much for being here.
And you can promise that I will promote your interview
Ad
like
nauseam,
no one else.
like nobody else can.
Like nobody else can.
Awesome.
Okay.
I can't wait. Thanks,
Thanks.
Andy.